Probably true.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening's consent agenda consists of the following items. A, approve the minutes of the following. City Council work session, January 4th, 2022. City Council regular meeting, January 4th, 2022. City Council work session, January 18th, 2022. City Council regular meeting, January 18th, 2022. City Council work session, February 2nd, 2022. City Council regular meeting, February 2nd, 2022. B, authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement with Church of the Holy Trinity to provide city services and other considerations for the 2022 Woodstock Country Music Festival. C, approve the McLeod County large assembly permit for Holy Trinity's Woodstock Country Music Festival on June 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, 2022. Approve an application for exempt permit submitted by the Winsted Baseball Association, Incorporated, to conduct a raffle on July 17, 2022, at the East M. Campbell Field, 535 Andy Avenue West, Winsted, Minnesota, contingent upon the organization providing all necessary documentations to the State of Minnesota Gambling Control Board. C, approve the pledged securities that Security Bank and Trust Company has purchased for the City of Winsted for the month of January 2022. F, approve the building permit report for the month of January 2022. G, approve the financial report for the month of December 2021. Claims, approve the claims list for February 15th, 2022. That's the consent agenda, and I would accept a motion to accept it as read.
Mr. Mayor, a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, and I abstain from voting on the Security Bank and Trust Company item.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3 on the agenda this evening is a public hearing to adopt ordinance number 02204 to amend Chapter 14, Section 1. Adam.
Sure. In December of 2021, the city staff met with Minspect LLC to discuss the transition that would take place after the city council appointed their firm to be the designated building official and provide building inspection services in the city of Winsted. During the discussions, Minspect made a recommendation to update portions of Chapter 14, Section 1 to meet the standards of the current Minnesota State Building Code, including plumbing inspections and plan review. Minspect provided draft language and the steps necessary to adopt an ordinance that allows for the city to enforce the state of Minnesota Plumbing Code. The current language in Chapter 14 is from 2018 and includes specific references to state statute and provisions that have been changed or updated. Chapter 14, Section 1401.003 has been updated to reflect specific language and requirements that are related to the plumbing plan review and inspections. The additional language related to the plumbing code and inspections will allow the city's building official the authority to conduct plan reviews and inspections related to commercial projects in the city of Winsted. The state will continue to oversee the inspections of the building, public buildings and state licensed facilities for plumbing-related permits. So to recap that, the main adjustment to the code as being proposed this evening is in regards to our building officials performing the plan review and inspections on commercial projects versus the state of Minnesota having to do that as our code currently would dictate. So moving forward, the state of Minnesota would only have to do plan review and inspections on state licensed facilities. So that's the main adjustment to this evening's language. So the draft ordinance language was forwarded to the state of Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry for their inspection. They did approve the language as we are presenting this evening. So the next step in this ordinance amendment is to host a public hearing this evening. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that you open up the public hearing for public comment.
I will open the public hearing to accept public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please approach the podium and state your name and address.
No one seems to be interested in commenting regarding the draft ordinance language. Okay.
Okay? So we have any other questions, or if not, I'll call for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do any of the council members have any additional questions or comments regarding the ordinance amendments?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-22-04, amending Chapter 14, Section 1 of the Municipal Code of the City of Winsted concerning the Minnesota State Building Code and permits in the City of Winsted.
And I call for a motion to adopt ordinance 022-04.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is no old business this evening. Under new business, the first item under new business is a recommendation for bidding for the airport. Adam.
Sure. As part of previous CIP or capital improvement planning discussions, the Airport Commission has planned for development of the taxi lane, of an additional taxi lane out at the runway, with the intent to allow for more development and provide more activity out at the airport. So this evening, Bolton Mink is here to discuss the proposed plans and specs and seek authorization to put it out for bids. So Jake Salisbury with Bolton Mink, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm seeking authorization to proceed to the next phase of this project, which is advertising and then bidding. Project includes taxi lane, westerly one planned with 2 additional ones set up for the future. So about 400 to 450 feet of a taxi lane, so kind of in the southwest corner of the airport, parallel to the entrance road. Airport Commission approved it last night, looking for city council approval. If so, we would get the advertisement out and then open bids on March 11th. Work on the grant request. Grant request would then be due April 11th. And then come back to the council to ask for you to award the project. And then we'd have to wait for the grant to get in place. We'd have to wait for the grant dollars to be obtained before proceeding with the project. We anticipate that would be late summer, so then construction would be fall, similar to last year's project when we did the pavement work. That was a fall start, so similar timeline as that project.
Will that bring the air traffic to a halt, or?
It will not bring the air traffic to the halt. It's going to be south of all the activity. The runway will stay open. There will be a little bit of hauling needed, but they're going to cut off of the entrance road right in that southwest corner on the map here. So there'll be very, very minimal impact to the airport and no stopping of aircraft in and out.
So if you look up here on the screen, this is the new taxi lane as proposed right here. So right now we have proposed for some private box hangars to be constructed along it. And then in the future, we are proposing, or the Airport Commission is proposing, future city-owned T hangars that we could rent out. Then I think it allows us to rent out 16 spaces. Again, so the Airport Commission's intent with this project is really as a revenue generator through the rental of the T hangar space, as well as the sale of land lease for box hangars through this area. Obviously, with every additional hangar that we have in town, that generates revenue toward our airport fees, as well as likely gas sales, etc.
The box hangars, those are built by individuals? We just
Correct.
rent the land.
Those, yeah, we would lease out the land to private individuals, and they would have the private construction costs associated with the box hangars on the west side of the road of the new taxi lane.
Has there been any interest showing that people are looking for?
Yeah,
this?
we have a meeting tomorrow with a gentleman that's interested in doing one. Now, he might, if I scroll down here, we do have one lot available as part of our last hangar development. If you look at this map, there's one vacant lot right here. So whether he would decide to build there or wait for the tax lane construction this fall, that is yet to be determined. The reason we've struggled selling this lot is the elevations are difficult to work with in this area. That brings some additional cost because of the elevations right there. So again, there's still some debate which spot he's interested in. Note that as part of this project that we're proposing this evening, this is strictly taxi lane construction. This is not hangar construction. We're looking, the federal government, the FAA will fund 90% of this tax lane. MnDOT will be funding 5%, and then the local share will be 5% that we would pay for through our airport improvement fees of the hangar owners. This area for box hangar construction on both sides of this taxi lane, there's gonna be some substantial elevation adjustments that are needed in the future. And right now, that's proposed to be a private cost associated with the hangar development. We can reevaluate that in the future and apply for grant funding to adjust that elevation, but that would be a 70-30 grant through MnDOT, not through the FAA. But that's a future decision we can make to make the lots more marketable, more saleable for future development.
There's also some, go ahead.
Approximately how much, when you say 5%, is that equal to?
We're anticipating our 5% to be about $19,000.
There's also some ponding shown on this figure that also is not required at this time. The triggers aren't met for that with the amount of impervious surface, so that would also come at a future phase.
Right. So, Jake, would you say likely once we do the next taxi lane, that would trigger that impervious surface amount to require this ponding area that Jake mentioned, and then there's a large ponding structure required down here once full build has taken place?
Correct, yep. Basically, any more impervious would trigger some of that ponding work to be done.
Sure.
Depending on which, I assume we do the center one next, so.
I guess we never talked about what phase 1, 2, and 3
Yeah.
looks like, but I guess that was my assumption as well,
I would
that
assume, so yeah.
this taxi lane would be phase 2, and then this taxi lane would be phase 3. Right now, only phase 1 is on our CIP at this point. We don't even have phase 2 and 3 on our future CIPs. Our next large project on our CIP, 5 years out from now, would be the hangar construction at that point then.
Once the taxiway is constructed, then next year, do we not want Winstock to use the property?
Oh, I think we still allow them to use the property, yes.
Okay,
I don't think.
until they start building.
Until there's more development, yeah. And even, again, we're not planning on doing anything east of this taxi lane for another 5 years, so I think they'll be able to use that, a big portion of that for at least another 5+ years. So, worth noting lastly, and I'm not certain if I had informed the council previously, but we were recently informed that we received an additional approximately $450,000 of coronavirus-related type infrastructure funds to be used at the airport. So we're hoping that we can use that to help offset our costs associated with these T-hangar constructions, as well as the planned federal entitlement funds that we're planning for those construction.
Very good.
So any other questions for?
Any other questions or discussion? And I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve plans and specification and authorize Bolton and Mink Incorporated to advertise for bids for the new taxi lane construction project at the Winstead Municipal Airport. 10B.
I have a motion.
Second.
I need a second.
Second.
Speak up there, young lady. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Second item under new business is an operations and maintenance agreement. Adam?
Sure. Our current 5-year agreement with People Service is scheduled to end on April 30th of 2022. So earlier this year in January, People Service reached out to me about extending the agreement an additional 5 years. So the action before us this evening is to extend our agreement with People Service for 5 years. That agreement does have some minor changes, I guess. One being that the previous agreement included an annual increase per the CIP. This agreement includes an annual increase, per the CIP plus 1%. The agreement also adjusts our true-up clause regarding annual operation cost. There's a little bit of decrease in the annual operation cost from, I think it was $15,000 previously, and the new agreement calls for, I think it's $12,000. And there's also a slight adjustment to the chemical costs that are built in as part of a true-up. So when I say the true-up, we have some maintenance and chemical costs built into the agreement. Any unspent funds within maintenance or chemicals gets comes back to the city of Winsted then under this agreement. So that true-up amount has changed slightly. The overall agreement is going up by 1.31% for this year, so it's much less than the likely CIP for 2022, which is probably closer to 7%. So this year the increase will be 1.31%, and then every year moving forward it'd be the CIP plus 1% as proposed. And that, I am understanding, is the standard language in the rest of People Services agreements with the other cities they're operating in. Our last 5-year agreement was one of the last ones to not include that plus 1% associated with that, just on the timing of that cycle. So with that being said, Lee Ortloff with People Service and Jerry, I'm forgetting, I'm drawing a blank your last name, Strand, is here to answer any questions regarding the agreement, and then also after that, then they're here to present as part of their annual council report.
Any discussions or questions? Then I ask for a motion.
I have a question. Since the new plant went into service, what are chemical costs compared to the old plant?
Chemical costs have risen, part of that significantly. It's like everything else has. That's part of the increase on it. And I don't think we've been overly high on our true-up on it annually, and we are working on with the biological part of the phosphorus removal to keep them costs down. We don't see a big, huge jump in that. Part of lowering the maintenance cost was on the old plant. We had that old UV system, and every year we'd be sticking thousands of dollars into that thing, and there's, and we don't have that no more. We don't have the cost that we had on all our maintenance from previous to, so that's why that was lowered. So.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Then I ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an operation and maintenance agreement with People Service Incorporated to provide operation and maintenance at the wastewater treatment facility in the city of Winsted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the organizational report. And he's already up there.
I'm already up
He's
there.
faster he's very fast.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do kind of a 2021 year in review, and then kind of our goals for next year, 2020, or this year in 2022. So last year in 2021 started out, we did an energy consumption report through Minnesota Rural Water, and we found some changes in the plant that we could make that had some significant reductions in the electrical costs out there. We were able to turn down the oxidation ditch rotors and got rid of a lot of the peak demand that you get off your Xcel Energy bill by it, because it would ramp up and down so much. And we opened up some valves on some pumps and got rid of restrictions that would just cause more amps for the pumps to run. And also we have effluent blowers that run about 6 months out of the year. They're off right now, but we want to put them on timers so they don't run 24/7. We could probably only run them 8 hours a day. That would also lead to saving more energy costs. And one thing I discovered, when the plant got redone, we had a lot of high LP costs out there in that one building. They came and filled that tank last week. I was there, and they told me that's the first time that tank has been filled in a year. So hats off to Jerry. He's out there every day. He does a wonderful job with keeping thermostats down. You go in there, every room you go, "Brr, it's cold in here." They're at 55 degrees. As he's in there working, he turns them up, and that's proving out. I mean, fuel costs, LP costs are high now, and that's helping to really save money on that.
Well, we certainly appreciate your efforts with that, Jerry, and
That was a big, I remember that being a big concern, because
yeah, you and I had spoke about that right
we were
away.
we were going through gas on that tank like crazy. To hear that, I was really pleased that
If you leave the temperature down when he's working in there, we'll buy him a coat.
He's not in too often. Goes in, takes tests, goes out. So you know what I mean. So nope, he does a really good job with that. So.
Why don't we introduce that young man, by the way, so everybody knows him?
You guys know Jerry Strandland?
Yep.
He's our operator out here. He's doing a really good job. He's the kind of guy, he'll do anything you ask him. And he's, 2 more years? He's looking to retire in 2.5 years, so hopefully he can.
Well, we like those type of guys. If you want to hang in longer, we'd sure appreciate it.
I thought it was a 5-year extension.
Yeah.
I'm still here. So, no, he does a wonderful job out there. He's very analytical. He makes sure that the plant stays in compliance and all the testing is done. He's got a good system working, so.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully-
Thank you.
So then, after that, we had a insurance claim out there with the lift station that we run through our, the clear water off of the biosolids tanks. And it had electrical short in it that took the controls out of it. And then the check valves in it, they had these mechanical swing arms with arms that go, and I still believe that they got froze from the frost and it bent them. They swing up, they swing down. And then when it thawed out, they're hooked into force main that comes with the plant when it pumps, and it flooded that building. Because the pumps couldn't come on to push against it, and the water just came back in, and then it flooded the building and filled up everything with water. Luckily, there was nothing damaged in that building. After everything was drained down, we waited a couple months, had electrician in there, inspected all the pumps. The pumps were fine. They replaced the check valves with internal mechanical ones. They got like a flapper inside that goes back and forth, so there's no external parts that could fail. And down in that lift station in the bottom where the drain pipe comes in from that building that flooded, they put in what's called a duct bill. It's a rubber flap. It just goes shut. Water can come in, but it can't go back out. Because there's been other times there's been water in that room, but not from this, that it could go back through that. Now it can't happen no more. So we should never have that issue.
That was a big problem for a while.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So hopefully that issue's gone and we won't have that no more. So then we moved on to the final clarifier one, the rehab of that. We got 3 quotes, presented it to the mayor and council here, and then repairs were made to that, and it's been in service ever since. It's been running fine. Only issue we find like that, it's supposed to run in a hand-off auto mode. It only runs in hand mode, and we'll get that taken care of here. We performed all maintenance on the 6 lift stations in town, and there's 5 backup generators. Everything is running fine as it should. What the biggest issue we've been having is on the Litfin lift station. We've had to pull pumps multiple times due to clogging with rags. There's 3 pumps in there, so one goes down, we just get somebody in and pull it, and they gotta pull the rags out of it. That's pretty common in a lot of communities, so it's just something you're dealing with. But
What'd you say, it was clogging of what?
rags,
Are you kidding?
yeah. No, I'm not kidding.
We do try to,
we do
we notify the public as part
Yep.
of our water billing process
Yep.
annually,
Yep.
but.
And
we'll try to do our
every
diligence.
town fights with it. And the Litfin lift station has Winston on the Lake, North Gate, West Gate. Everything runs down and dumps into that lift station, and then that lift station pumps it to the wastewater plant. So,
It serves a
you
big
know, so you
area.
can kind of pin down what area it's coming from, because none of the other lift stations are plugging up. So So that only serves a certain area, so. But, and if it continues to be a problem, we will let the city know and it'll have to be addressed. You know, letters sent out and so it seems like every couple months we got a plug pump, so it builds up in there and it happens, so. Then the effluent pump lift station in the plant, we're having some issues there. This is just kind of in its infancy stage. There's gonna be a lot coming down from this. It seems that they've been sized wrong for the flow of the facility. The one pump was replaced under warranty. When it went into service, it had a 1-year warranty. It had a catastrophic failure with the bearings in it. The manufacturer, KSB, replaced it. That pump has since failed again with the same problem. They will not stand behind it. So,
They won't stand behind the warranty? Or they won't?
they warranted once,
Oh.
and now it's way past warranty. It failed again from the same thing.
Okay.
So Quality Flow is the one who installed the pumps with that. They were out last week, and they did some testing on it, and it seems that the pump is way outside the curve. It was designed to pump 694 gallons a minute at 84 feet ahead. And when they installed them, they could not run them wide open because they were over pumping. So they just said, oh, we'll be fine here. We should, and that's fine. If that's where it's going to run, it's going to run. Well, does not seem to be the case. So last Thursday they were out and they put some pressure gauges on tap and then did some checking and stuff. And that the pumps that are currently out there pump 1,100 gallons per minute there's only 13 feet of head on it. And I think that's where the error is when it got applied, it had all this head pressure on it, and it doesn't have that. So the pump doesn't work. It doesn't have the ability to work. It works. I should say that wrong. It has the ability to work. It's working way too good, and it's putting too much pressure on it that it's taking the bearings out. And the concern is there's 3 pumps in there, and pump number 3 has gone out twice. That one has the least resistance. That the other ones are going to go out, and there you sit, because they're out of warranty. They want to come in Thursday. They have some loaner pumps they want that they think would be the proper size for that, and they want to come out and install 2 of them on Thursday, and let them run for a month or 2, see how they work out, and in the meantime, we'll have to try to get this figured out, because the last thing we want is now springtime coming in. We do have I&I there, groundwater, the flows go up, and we can't keep up. We're gonna have big issues. And we had discussions today, and we just gotta talk through them. I'd like to keep one of them bigger pumps there if they pump a lot, because I've been associated with this plant since 2005, and I've seen this plant pump over 2,000 gallons a minute in my day. And if that's the case, it's gotta be able to keep up. So, like I said, this is just in its infancy. Everybody's just starting to talk about it. I will keep Adam and everybody informed. And I'll guarantee everybody's going to point the finger at everybody else. You know what I mean? It's going to cost.
Well, hopefully we're not pumping 2,000 gallons a minute anymore,
No.
because that had to be associated with a lot more I&I, and I hope
Yep.
we've addressed some of that.
Yep. And
But I understand what you're saying. We still need to be prepared for the worst.
And I got some numbers we're going to go over in a little while about that and stuff. But yeah, like I said, you don't know. All of a
Right.
sudden you get a 8-inch rainfall, and it's happened before. Yeah. So, and then biosolids program. I'm working on getting 2 more sites approved just south of town on land that's owned by Greg Otto. It'd be south of where Kay Ginningsman's place is. They bought that farmland there. Benefits to this are they can use a drag line to take out of our tanks. We don't have to run tankers back up and down the road, so hopefully that cuts down the cost of that. And population is growing in this town. I think since I've been here the last few years with all the businesses and stuff, there's a lot more people in town during the day. What you think, they're using water and and bathroom and stuff, and the town's growing. Whether or not houses and stuff is growing on the other side with the industry, So I just want to make sure instead of having 2 sites that we have more sites down the road in case something happens. So, And then one of the things, you know, that was had a question on last fall was the amount of solids that were hauled out. We have to get the clear water out of there as much as we can before we start mixing it. It kind of separates out. We ran into issues with that last year with that lift station being down, because that's our time to get a lot of it out. Once the phosphorus regulations get stringent on us, starting in June through the end of September, we really can't take much out of there because we can't make the regulations unless we use a lot of chemical. So hopefully we can do a lot better job of that and keep that cost down and, you know, don't pay to haul water.
Right.
You know,
So,
so,
so to Lee's point, this last year as part of our biosolids removal, the costs were a little higher because we had to haul some water. We weren't able to pump that off
Yeah,
because
we
that
weren't
lift
able to get
station
it
was
out.
down as
Yeah.
part of the plant. This year, we don't anticipate having those higher costs. It was still within our budget, but just higher than we were used to, so we had some review of that, et cetera.
Right,
Determine that
right.
was why.
right. And I just want to kind of give a good
Yeah.
explanation why.
Yep.
So
No, that
we're
makes
kind of
sense.
up against a double-edged sword with that, with the tight biosolids limit, effluent limits, and once that goes off in the end of September, then we can get as much of it out. But being it was an early fall, we have to get everything mixed up, sampled, and out. Well, then it didn't separate out after we mixed it. Usually it separates out. It didn't this time. So that is that. So that was kind of some of the major highlights of last year. And for this year, like I said, the biosolids land application, we just talked about that, trying to get it so we can use a drag line. I gotta do all the work on that. I wanna get that sent in this spring. After sent into the MPCA, there's a 30-day comment period, and all the landowners, anybody's affected by it, to comment on it. Once that's gone, if nobody's commented, they are approved sites. So, and then one of the things we've had on the back burner for a while is the control building out there, the office building, is the roof. That roof is in fairly poor shape. It leaks. We should get some updated estimates on it, either repairing it as a flat roof, or I know me and Adam have had conversations. We did it in another town, and we just built a hip roof on it and you could either put shingles or tin on it, and they actually look very nice. You know what I mean? So it might be cheaper to do it that way then. But then it's probably a good thing it waited, because, you know, lumber prices got up so high and everything, so. Continue operations and efficiency at the wastewater plant. I want to continue to find ways to improve a process for reducing energy consumption. You know, like I said, Jerry's doing a wonderful job with the heat, and just got to watch what we do in the summertime with our electricity, you know, so we can find ways to save. We'll try to find them. Continue to manipulate the biological phosphorus removal process to reduce chemical usage. This whole winter and fall, since we started hauling, we haven't used any chemical at all out there, and actually it's the lowest it's been, our effluent limits. So we're on the right track. It seems like every year we have some kind of hiccup that messes that up. That's getting back to your question, is we're trying, and you know, like last year with that lift station going down, we threw a whole bunch at it to get it out of there, and then we ended up having to treat it and use chemical. It's always my goal to use the minimal amount of chemical. We're doing it in 3 other towns right now. There's no reason why we can't here. So we just got to keep it on the right track. It's something that has to be managed and controlled. So, and then the effluent blowers, I want them put on timers instead of running 24/7. Final clarifier needs to be operated in hand mode, and then we'll have to work on resolving that pump issue between Quality Flow and Bolton and Mink. I've talked to In Control, who is the integrator at the plant. We had transducer in one of the filters went out on us, and that's why we want to keep a little more in that maintenance budget. We could have lowered that a lot more, but just that transducer is $1,400. And we got it through the integrator, which is In Control, and I want him to come out, and he said he would come out on a time as needed, just charge us for his time to be here and make these changes to get that clarifier to work right and put that timer in there, and I wanted some changes on the drive, but if he came out, then he'd want to install that transducer. Well, they, I don't know what they charge. I'm sure $150 an hour. I can do that myself. I don't need him to do that. And now that's done. So, and then I don't know for sure what it's going to cost it, because the way we run anything over $1,000, I need your permission. I just can't say, hey, go do it. And then Adam, that's why we said, $1,400. As long as Adam says yes, we're fine with it. We have the money there, so to do it. So that's where that at. I'm at the point where I can call him and get him out now and get that stuff resolved. Things I'd like to do is I want to build better relationships with the city maintenance, and we have good working relationships, but I think it could be better. We could help each other, learn from each other. I've known Chris for a long time, and we work good together. There's a lot of things that we can help and each other out. Resources, equipment, stuff, if you guys need something, we have stuff all over from people service. Same if we need something. Just like to be able to work together a lot more than what has been in the past. Because, water does have a direct reflect on the sewer. If there's issues, then, because a lot of cities, we run water and sewer, and there's a lot of things that we can help out and do. Because so I asked him for, we do it in a lot of other towns, like, you talk about I&I, road project infiltration. I just have some facts here that I just don't know if you guys ever knew. I asked Chris for the last 5 years worth of water and compared to the last 5 years of sewer. So infiltration, it's, you all know it's groundwater getting in, rainwater, either through coming in through the surface or through some pumps, foundation tiles, stuff like that. And with really, it's the plant here in Winstead is so big, it doesn't make a difference to the plant. There's been a lot of improvements over the year. When Kingsley Road got redone, we have not had to bypass that lift station since. And we used to get this big surge. That's pretty much gone. And I think there's been some improvements too with McLeod Avenue being done. I thought somebody told me one time they thought they found something, but I know last year was dry, and a wetter year will tell us, but it seems like that big surge we would get seems to have really gone away, and like I said, we haven't had to bypass. But I just ran some numbers, just compared to the water to the sewer. So in 2021, we had 25 inches of rain for the year, and the 37% of the water that goes through the wastewater plant is groundwater. You compare the water that was pumped versus what we pumped through the wastewater plant. In 2020, there was 23 inches of rain that fell. That was 47%. 2019 was a really wet year. 42 inches of rain that year. 55% of the water that ran through the wastewater plant was groundwater. So 2018 had 30 inches of rain, and that's 34%. 2017, there was 35 inches of rain, and that was 36%. So over the last 5 years, it averages 43% of the water that goes through the wastewater plant is not what's pumped through the city.
So are you calculating that the water ran through the plant based off of, or compared to the water we're pumping into our wells, is what I'm assuming?
Yep, that's what I'm using. And that's not entirely accurate, but it's just a reference point that gives you, there's hydrant flushing. It'll actually make that number more. But like I said, the plant's so big, and, really for what we're doing out there and for the compliance that we have, the dilution is the solution. It lowers your numbers down, especially, when they're going to be, everybody's getting chloride limits and stuff like that from water softeners. That water dilutes that down, and it'll probably get you right to the limit. It's working. It's doing it in another town with similar problems. So, because there's no way to treat it at the plant. Either you have to do water treatment or.
Right, but you certainly wouldn't want to be treating groundwater, right?
Right,
It's expensive to treat groundwater that doesn't need to be treated as well. So we certainly have to continue.
And a lot of it comes from some pumps, to be honest with you. Some pumps and roof drains and foundation tiles.
Sure.
That's where a majority of it comes from. But I know when they did that Kingsley project, they found a 6-inch storm line that was hooked into the sanitary. That's why we're having so many issues over them years, so that's kind of my report. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I
thank
certainly
you, guys.
appreciate all the efforts in making it more efficient out there. And we knew with the new plant, there'd be some bugs to work out and we would find efficiencies in the near term, and that's what we have done.
Yep.
And I think I'm glad that you guys continue to try to find those efficiencies.
And I'll keep you up to date with this pump issue going on.
Sure.
So,
Yep,
all right,
sounds good, thank you.
If you'd like to stay after the meeting tonight, sir, I think I could convince you not to retire. Thank you very much. Very complete. We've come to the open forum portion of the meeting. If anyone wishes to address the council, please step to the podium, state your name and address. If not, Adam, do you have any updates?
Sure, just want to update the city council that we will likely reschedule the EDA meeting that was scheduled for this Thursday, just due to some time constraints, with some other economic development activities. Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting with the McLeod One Watershed Planning Group that we are a part of, Mrs. Mayor and myself. So we will look at that and go to that, and I'll report back after that meeting to see what some of the plans are. But again, they do have grant funds for that watershed basin on the north side of the lake. So that's the main project that affects us. Right now, we're working with both to make the scheduled meeting with McLeod, so a water district associated with that in the near future. So, lastly, Mr. Salisbury and myself are scheduled to meet with landowners associated with Facade 5, that extension and that land acquisition. So we have been successful in setting up that meeting. We're meeting with them also on Thursday. So we'll report back, hopefully with some results of that discussion. And that's all that I have this evening.
Anyone else have anything they want to discuss?
I'm good.
And I need a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. One of us.
All in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.